Before we get started, I want to give a quick thank you to Kurtzspell for sponsoring this video. Kurtzspell is a third-person action battle game created by the same people who made Elsword and Grand Chase, two other games that I love playing. As an anime fan, I absolutely love Kurtzspell because it is so clearly inspired by anime. And playing this game makes me feel like I am taking part in an anime instead of just watching it. The English voice acting is top tier, I really like it a lot, and I love the battles against epic monsters like dragons, and the special attacks that make this game extremely fun to play. And the customizable characters with very attractive designs really enhance the gaming experience. The game is easy to get into, I was quickly able to figure out the controls and start having fun. The developers are always listening to player feedback, and they just recently made some important updates to make the gaming experience even better. One of the big features of this game is the PvP mode, which gives you the option of using your favorite combos against other players too. So please click the link in the description right now and check out Kurtzspell for yourself. By doing so, you're helping out the channel and you get to play an awesome game to boot. What up guys, Gozen here for AnimeUproar, and today we are going to be talking about Escanor, Praise the Sun. If you want the 7 Deadly Sins videos to keep on coming, make sure to raise the Divine Axe Rita and bring it down on that like button. If you haven't already, Lord Twigo commands you to subscribe for more 7 Deadly Sins videos. So, for the Life of series, I am trying to provide something like a biography of the character. More than just being educational and entertaining, I was thinking that hearing the biographies of epic anime characters could inspire you. Just like people read real biographies to learn important life lessons, I'm hoping that this video series can offer the same value, except instead of real life people, we'll be dealing with epic anime characters. After all, any true anime fan knows, we learn just as much and sometimes more from certain anime characters than we do from most real life people. So let me know about a character you want covered in the comments that has changed your life. Now a quick heads up, there will be manga spoilers in this video, so without further ado, grab a carrot, sit back, and enjoy the video. Escanor is 40 years old during the main story. He was born to the king and queen of the Castellio kingdom. His father and mother loved little Prince Escanor. They gave him what they thought was a good name, Escanor, and they hoped to raise him to be a strong and gentle person. However, Prince Escanor was not the firstborn child. He had an older brother called Desmond. The older brother was jealous because he was once the star of the show, but now he had to share the attention of his parents, the king and the queen, with his little brother. He resented this, so he bullied the young Escanor. He would kick him and beat him with a stick while insulting him, all because he felt that their parents were always doting over him. However, one day Escanor grabbed the arm Desmond was hitting him with. Desmond never expected the little brother to resist, but not only did Escanor resist, he broke his older brother's arm. This shouldn't have been possible, but it was because Escanor's special ability was awakened. This ability used to be the great sunshine that the supreme goddess bestowed on the archangel Mael. The power chose Escanor as its new vessel eons after it abandoned Mael. The power dramatically increases Escanor's strength in the presence of the sun, and this is what allowed him to easily stand up to his older brother and break his arm. Escanor didn't just get stronger, his body changed when the sunshine ability was activated. People called him a monster, and his own father was shocked by his appearance. His mother renounced the young Escanor, saying that he wasn't her son. Rather than being viewed as a blessing, people viewed Escanor's sunshine ability as a terribly powerful curse, as if he were Frankenstein's monster or a young Gara. The people of the kingdom turned against him. They felt like letting him live was sure to bring misfortune to the kingdom, so they raised their weapons, which included swords and spears, so these guys were even better equipped than the mobs that chased Frankenstein's monster in the film. They wanted to hunt the young Escanor down and put an end to the monster's life. A woman named Rosa helped the young Escanor escape. He said he can't run away on his own, but she put him in a barrel anyways, sent him off to sea, and he somehow survived. Escanor went on to defeat giant monsters that were twice his size or larger. Everywhere he went, people were scared of his strength, and because of it, they didn't consider him to be human at all. Even when Escanor helped others, it didn't change anything. Because of his monstrous power, he was never accepted. He was always treated as an outsider and as a monster. Then later on, after years of being rejected by all other humans, Escanor ran into Merlin, the sexy wizard, and Captain Meliodas. Escanor couldn't believe that these two weren't afraid of him. Merlin tells Escanor that the mystery around him makes him more alluring, not scary. Escanor reflects on this with rosy cheeks. It's the first time someone said something positive about his powers. Afterwards, Gowther reads his mind and sees that Escanor has fallen in love with Merlin. Not only did it seem like love at first sight when he first met Merlin, she also treated him, a monster in everyone else's view, with acceptance, interest, and kindness. Escanor doesn't simply love Merlin. For Escanor, Merlin saved him. As he would say later on, she illuminated his life that had been shrouded in darkness up to that point. She gave him hope when he had none. Now let's fast forward to when Escanor was around 28 years old. The events I'm about to explain don't take place in the main manga but in a side story called The Vampires of Edinburgh. It was the first time Seven Deadly Sins fans were introduced to Escanor. In this story, which takes place 12 years before the main story, the Seven Deadly Sins have to deal with vampires who have taken over the kingdom of Edinburgh. The 28-year-old Escanor is clean shaven. We see his skinny nighttime version first. Not surprisingly, soon after Meliodas goes to get him, Escanor starts talking about how thankful he is to Merlin because, and I quote, "Someone as beautiful, intelligent, kind, and cheerful as her is so kind to someone as dull, spineless, weak, and indecisive as me." Clearly, nighttime Escanor does not have a high view of himself, which is not surprising considering that everyone around him for most of his life made him feel like a monster. Because of that, he views his ability Sunshine as a curse, so much so that he's sorry he was ever born. Ironically, Escanor can get pretty dark, but it is understandable when you know his past, and so is his appreciation of Merlin and the captain. Escanor ends up having to face the strongest vampire, the Vampire King Israf. Nighttime Escanor is scared and runs in fear from the Vampire King. However, later, he begins transitioning into his daytime form, and of course his behavior changes. He becomes the prideful Escanor we all love so much. After getting hit, he asks the Vampire King if that's his full power. Then he tells him that he should go full strength. Whereas nighttime Escanor is sorry he was born into this world, daytime Escanor asks the Vampire King to apologize to him because he was born into his, i.e. Escanor's, world. The Vampire King decides to use his full power on Escanor, but Escanor is completely unfazed. The Vampire King is shocked and wonders how his darkness attack didn't work on Escanor. And Escanor tells him, and I quote, "The darkness feared me. That's all there is to it." Then, the former Prince Escanor suggests that kings are as insignificant as dirt when compared to himself. He says, "In this realm, kings such as yourself are as numerous as grains of sand, but I am no such thing. I am an existence unlike any other in this world, the lion's sin of pride, Lord Escanor." So even at the age of 28, not only did Escanor not respect royalty, he was so prideful that he even looked down on kings and viewed himself as infinitely superior to them. The Vampire King tries his best to compete with Escanor. He uses the move Black Full Plate, which is an armor of darkness that is supposed to be impregnable even to the fires of purgatory. But Escanor easily incinerates the armor with one swing of his axe. As noon gets closer, the heat coming off Escanor alone is enough to burn the Vampire King to ash. He doesn't even need to use any effort to defeat the strongest vampire in this form. This side story was a fitting introduction to the OP Escanor, and in it, Merlin even says that Escanor has the lowest power level of all Magic Knights at midnight, but that at his peak power level, he easily surpasses that of any other sin. Merlin asks Escanor between night and day, which is the real you, I wonder, which is a good question that we are all left to think about as well. Escanor has two completely different personalities inside him. Can we ask which one is the real Escanor, or should we accept that they both are? After all, we all fluctuate between different moods and personalities. It's just not always as noticeable as it is with Escanor. Before prideful Escanor can cause any more damage to the surrounding area with his immense power, Merlin takes him out with the spell Blackout Arrow. Later, nighttime Escanor scolds himself for not being able to control his sunshine power and for letting the prideful version of himself take over. But the two Escanors are not all different. For instance, they both love Merlin and create poems for her. Nighttime Escanor is shy about his poem, but Merlin asks to hear it anyways. And that is our first introduction to Escanor. We later learn his backstory and get a better idea of why he views sunshine, which Merlin calls the source of all life, as a curse. Because of the power, his family and kingdom wanted him dead, and everyone he met before Rosa, Meliodas, and Merlin viewed him as a monster that they had to stay away from at all costs. Escanor also doesn't like the fact that the power doesn't allow him to control himself. In this side story, it is said that Escanor's power is something he was naturally born with. Whether it's a gift or a curse, no one knows. Of course, it can be viewed as both, depending on your perspective. Obviously, the power was originally a grace bestowed on Mael, the archangel, from the supreme deity. It made him stronger just as it made Escanor stronger. In this way, it looks like a gift. However, Escanor was a human, and this strength made sure that he would be ostracized by other humans for most of his life, because they'd view him as a monster. This must have led to years of indescribable pain and loneliness. Yet, eventually, he met Merlin and Meliodas, who valued the power he viewed as a curse. Because of his power, they made him a sin, and he finally had a place where he belonged and where he could help innocent people who were threatened. So the power can be viewed as either a curse or a blessing. It just depends on whether you want to focus on the bad aspects of the power or the good. Yes, the power drove many humans away from him, but at the same time it also brought him closer to the woman that he loves. 2 years after he defeats the Vampire King, Escanor is summoned to the castle with the other 7 deadly sins, where they are framed for the murder of Zaratras, and ambushed by every knight in the kingdom. Meliodas orders the sins to disperse and reconvene later. Fast forward another 10 years and we find out that Escanor, now 40 and rocking his awesome moustache, has been running his own bar named My Sweet Gluttony, clearly a loving reference to Merlin, who is the sin of gluttony. Escanor was the last sin to be introduced in the main story, but since then he has had many epic moments. When Galland arrives at his bar, he wants to play a game with Escanor. He wants a one-on-one fight to the death where they can each pick their own weapon of choice. The one who dies first loses. Nighttime Escanor is frightened, but he agrees. Galland happily pats him on the shoulder and accidentally knocks Escanor out. It is worth noting that by this point, Merlin has made magic glasses for Escanor that keep him from transforming into his daytime prideful self even during the daytime. But the glasses get knocked off his face before Escanor hits the ground. As a result, when daytime comes, Escanor wakes up in his muscular, prideful form. He takes the divine axe Rita with one hand from Galland, who was having trouble lifting it with 2 hands. We get some classic Escanor lines at this point. Escanor tells a shocked Galland that he is human, but that he also stands at the peak of all the races. He calls himself the Great Escanor of the 7 Deadly Sins. Galland realizes that he won't stand a chance if he doesn't use all his power, so he uses his move Critical Over, which drastically increases his combat power, giving him a combat class of 40,000. He goes all out, not holding back, and Escanor isn't even fazed by his attack. Escanor begins his next attack, and Galland turns and runs in fear, thus activating his own commandment, which turns anyone who lies or goes back on their word to stone. So we have Galland, the demon who was wrecking everyone up to this point, and being established as an OP figure, not only lose to Escanor, but run away like a baby. As if this wasn't enough to establish how OP Escanor is, his eaten soul defeats Melascula by burning her up from the inside. Melascula cannot believe that such a level of power is even possible. Even his detached soul is strong enough to take out a commandment. Escanor quickly leaves the area as noon is approaching, so he doesn't want to accidentally burn Bon, Jericho, Elaine, and his bar. He comes back at nighttime in his weak form, with his "I'm sorry I was born" attitude, yet even in this form he has a strong sense of duty. Even when Bon and Jericho try to talk him out of it, he insists that he needs to complete his final task as the owner of of the My Sweet Gluttony bar by delivering all of the kegs to his customers by the day after tomorrow. It is clear that even nighttime Escanor takes pride in his work, so much so that the revival of the 10 Commandments isn't even enough of a reason to leave his work undone. At Gloxinia and Droll's Great Fighting Festival, a reluctant nighttime Escanor has to fight against a manipulated Gowther. Gowther uses his powers and Escanor's memories in an attempt to plunge his consciousness into a darkness of despair. He feeds him nightmarish visions, sort of like Genjutsu from Naruto. Escanor sees Merlin, the woman he loves, tell him he can't share her life with him. Escanor is told his curse, the Sunshine Power, will never be lifted and that such a power will only eat away at his body. This nightmare Merlin tells him that she only uses him for her experiments and that he will never be loved, so he might as well die the lonely death he was meant for. Clearly, Gowther feeds Escanor many of the doubts and fears that he carries with himself. But something unexpected happens. Escanor says he realizes that Merlin cannot share her life with him, but still claims that she illuminated his life that had been shrouded in darkness. He says that to him, Merlin is the very sun itself, and he ends up transforming into his muscular form without the sun. We figure out a lot about Escanor here. We figure out that he doesn't really plan on being Merlin's lover. He is simply grateful that he has met her. Her presence in his life alone was enough to save him from the lonely darkness that characterized much of his life. Notably, we figure out that Escanor doesn't even need the sun to transform. He can even transform if he is made to see Merlin in his mind's eye. Talk about the power of love. Anyways, Escanor calls his axe Rita to him, which absorbs the tremendous heat Escanor gives off in his daytime form and stores it until he wants to use the accumulated power. Escanor decides to use this power to send an attack at Gloxinia and Droll, rather than at Gowther, who sends the attack Blackout Arrow, the same attack Merlin used in the side story manga to get Escanor to revert back to his true form. Thanks to Escanor, the 2 commandments are significantly injured, and what's more impressive is that he accomplished this during the nighttime. For Escanor, he was never planning to hurt Gowther and Jericho, who he views as his friends. He was planning to launch his attack at the 2 who toyed with Gowther's emotions all along. In this way, Escanor proves that he is a good friend, and that his muscular version cares about his friends just as much as his weak version does. Let's fast forward to 1 month after Estarossa defeated and temporarily killed Meliodas. Estarossa seems unstoppable, but then Escanor shows up before him, fully decked out in his awesome golden armor. In what is easily one of the most hyped and epic fights in the series, Escanor shines brilliantly. Estarossa is confused that his commandment of love, which is supposed to render anyone who feels hatred in their hearts powerless, is not having an effect on Escanor. In epic Escanor glory, he responds, "Why should it? I don't hate those who are weaker than myself, I pity them." The way the mangaka Nakaba constructs hype around Escanor is absolutely brilliant. We have here a villain who is built up as extremely OP. He even defeated the protagonist of the series, and not only does Escanor not fear him, he pities him. He looks down at him in his usual prideful way. The fight begins, and after Estarossa gets a few hits on Escanor, Escanor brings Estarossa to his knees with 1 blow. Then Escanor lands a blow with his axe, but Estarossa uses full counter to send the physical attack back at him. Escanor says, "I see, no wonder that hurt so badly. Just as I'd expect from myself." Escanor has his cruel sun with him, and it causes so much heat that it's melting the armor of nearby holy knights. So Escanor sends Estarossa flying to a lake and drops his cruel sun on him. With his attack, all of the water in the lake evaporates in an instant. Estarossa is hurt, but not too badly because he protected himself with darkness. He surrounds Escanor's next cruel sun with darkness and goes in for the kill. He uses full counter and Escanor once again hurts himself. Estarossa thinks he'll definitely win because he can reflect all physical attacks and dark magic appears to have an advantage over sun magic. However, at this point, there is still plenty of time before noon, so Escanor's power is actually still rising. Then what is one of the most quoted and epic parts in the series? It is revealed that Escanor did land a slash on Estarossa. Escanor says, "My attacks won't work? Says who? You swallowed up my sun? Who decided that?" Then, his cruel sun overpowers the darkness, and the once OP seeming Estarossa stands there helpless, shocked at Escanor's growing combat class. Escanor finishes his epic line, "The one who gets to decide is me." Then Escanor sends Estarossa and Zeldris blasting off with his cruel sun attack, leaving only him standing there, the clear victor. It takes a while to see another epic fight from Escanor, but weak Escanor does get to massage Merlin while she's naked in the bath during the interval. I'm sure he'd rather be doing that than fighting anyways. He even reads a poem to Meliodas after he finds out about the curse that the Demon King placed on him. Since Escanor views himself as being cursed, he empathizes with what Meliodas is going through. He wants to cheer up his friend, or comrade of sin as he puts it. Meliodas can see this and brightens up, thanking him. You can find many moments like this, where Escanor demonstrates great caring for others, and not just for Merlin. Escanor goes on to help the 7 Deadly Sins fight Melascula, who is holding Meliodas trapped in a dark cocoon. However, Meliodas escapes. Melascula is shocked, saying that none of the 10 commandments are strong enough to escape, except perhaps Zeldris if he was using the Demon King's power. Meliodas is in a berserk demon state called Assault Mode. Melascula says that this is what Meliodas was like when he commanded the 10 commandments and they all feared him. She's sure that everyone present is gonna die. Of course, Escanor does not hesitate to take him on, and Merlin traps them in a perfect cube so they can duke it out. Meliodas' power level at this point is 142,000. Escanor is excited because this gives him a chance to prove that he is stronger than the captain. Assault Mode Meliodas is clearly overpowering Escanor, but luckily for him, High Noon is approaching and he is growing exponentially stronger by the minute. Even at a power level of 114,000, Meliodas continues to toy with him. However, we get to see his strongest form, which he can use at High Noon for just 1 minute. For this minute, he becomes, according to Merlin, the invincible incarnation of power called the One. In this form, Meliodas' attacks feel like an itch to him, and he can slash Meliodas' body with a swipe of his hand. This one swipe is enough to take Meliodas out of commission. As a god of demons, how does it feel to be looked down upon by a human? Once again, Escanor is able to pull out a clear W, even against what is supposed to be Meliodas' strongest form up to this point. Escanor's next significant challenge comes when he, along with Merlin and Ludoshel, are fighting against Zeldris with his OP original power Ominous Nebula, Cusack who has a power level of at least 168,000, and Chandler who has a power level of at least 173,000. These guys are even deadlier than the Assault Mode Meliodas that Escanor previously faced. Even Ludoshel, who has a power level of 201,000, is no match for Zeldris' Ominous Nebula move. However, Escanor turns into the One mode again, and in this mode he is able to stop the attack with his bare hand. Zeldris wonders why a human is getting involved in the war, and Escanor tells him that he is risking his life for the sake of his friends. After he dispels Zeldris' Ominous Nebula, Escanor finger stabs Zeldris. Unlucky for him though, Chandler blocks out the sun and Escanor turns back to his weak form. But thanks to him, Ludoshel is able to find an opening and injure Zeldris enough so that Cusack and Chandler need to step in while he recovers. Cusack alone, empowered by Chandler's darkness, is able to easily overpower Ludoshel, who as I mentioned has a very impressive power level of 201,000. As Merlin points out, even as they are known among the Demon Clan for being the absolute strongest of all, not counting the Demon King himself. She says they are strong without equal, fast without compare, and tougher than any other. Nevertheless, Merlin, with her intellect and power of infinity, is able to find a way to overpower them. Then, just as it looks like the demons are done for, memories of the truth behind Estarossa, that he is actually Mael, the Archangel who once possessed Escanor's Sunshine ability, comes rushing back to everyone. While people are distracted, weak Escanor grabs Rita and uses the sun that was charged into the axe to retake his daytime form. However, this temporary form obviously cannot compare to the One. Then, this is when Chandler and Cusack fuse back into the original demon. After this, Merlin believes that they have lost all chance of victory. A post-midday peak Escanor, who cannot go into the One form, is absolutely no match for the original demon, whose power also grows the more damaged he becomes. He sends Escanor flying through the air like a shooting star. Now, out of energy and in his weakened form, he thinks to himself that he would give the power of the sun and his very life to save the captain and Merlin. Luckily, Mael shows up in the nick of time and catches him while he is still flying through the air. Escanor wants to give Mael his grace back so he can help the others, but Mael says the grace abandoned him when he was pulled into the darkness. It waited eons to choose Escanor as its new owner. He says he is not fit for it anymore. However, Escanor, desperate, says he doesn't have enough life left in him to handle its burden, but they need the power of sunshine to beat the demons. If anyone was scared at this point that we'd lose the lovable, arrogant Escanor forever, never fear, because Escanor offers to simply let Mile borrow the power, suggesting that Mile is going to give it back in the future. With tears in his eyes, he begs Mile to save those precious to him, and Mile decides to go for it. Just as a hurt and thus empowered original demon is about to defeat Merlin and Ludoshell, Mile, with sunshine, parts the darkness and clouds, allowing the sun to shine through. Mile's move, Greatest Sun, is enough to defeat the original demon, so you can imagine just how strong he is. Even Escanor is impressed at Sunshine's true original owner's power. Then Zeldris tries to use Ominous Nebula, but Mile's closeness alone melts his sword, suggesting that now he is even more powerful than Escanor in the one mode, who had to use a karate chop to stop it and still left the blade intact. Desperate for Meliodas to become Demon King so he can bring his lover back, Zeldris fights out of desperation and manages to wound Mile, but not significantly, and Mile takes him out. Escanor rejoices with the rest when it appears like Merlin has succeeded in stopping the Demon King Meliodas from escaping the cocoon, but then they notice the cocoon is already empty. Although Mile is not a match for the Demon King in Meliodas' body right now, we have yet to see him in the one mode, which may come into play later on. For the time being, Escanor has lost the power he often viewed as a curse, but it is suggested that he will get it back once the war is over. Escanor has been one of the best characters to watch. His arrogance combined with his OP strength has been very entertaining. However, despite his great strength and arrogance, even in his muscular form, he has always kept his priorities in mind. Escanor was born with a curse that separated him from the rest of human society. It led him to experience a lot of pain and loneliness. However, it was also a blessing because the power led him to eventually meet his precious friends and allowed him to help protect them. Obviously, Escanor is probably one of the manliest characters in anime because of his muscles, confidence, and most importantly his glorious moustache. However, perhaps what is even more important and manly than even a moustache is the drive to protect those closest to you, and with Escanor, you can see that that has always been his #1 priority. Escanor is a great example of how power should be used and how a seeming curse can often turn out to be a blessing in the end. After all, if he didn't have Sunshine, he couldn't have given it to Mael, who ended up using it to save Merlin from the original demon. It turned out that this curse actually allowed him to save the woman he loves, and it's quite possible that the power will continue to help save his friends. And that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely smash that like button to let me know. If you haven't subscribed, and ring that magic YouTube bell, and Merlin will keep sending new 7 Deadly Sins videos straight to you. In the comments, let me know how you like this series, that would mean a lot, and let me know what character you would like to see done next. Remember to check out our Escanor and Meliodas merch at AnimeUproar.com, link in the description. Not only will you look epic, you'll also be supporting more 7 Deadly Sins content on this channel. Thanks again to Kurtzspell for sponsoring this video. Be sure to click the link in the description and try this awesome game for yourself. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboy.